Hi, Yvette. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this virtual summit, Realign Your Thoughts for women who want to exude confidence in every area of their life. It's such a pleasure to have you here. So kick us off. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you decided to join this summit.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for reaching out and connecting. And I'm so thrilled to be part of this summit. And so I'm Yvette Duncan, founder of Pulse of Luminous Love, and growth-oriented women and couples hire me to release generational patterns and burdens that aren't theirs to carry, so that they can be their authentic selves in their relationships. And so why I decided to be part of this summit is I just love the topic of confidence and all things confidence related. Yeah, I mean, so many things show up in family systems that stop us from being confident and being our authentic selves. And, you know, whether that be self-doubts or limiting beliefs, or there's so many things. And so when I heard the topic of the summit, I thought this is just perfect. And I love the topic.
Well, great. So then tell us, what does confidence mean to you?
Oh, what a beautiful question. So confidence to me means actually feeling the inner strength and confidence flowing through the generations from all our ancestors, and actually feeling that loving strength and blessing, all those blessings flowing through our family systems from one generation to the next.
So generational strength.
Yes, which is more than just the gift of life. You know, our ancestors, there's so much wisdom and strength and, you know, gifts of talents, and there's so much for us to access and share in the gifts and enjoy those blessings, and then also pass those blessings on to our children and future generations.
So let me ask this question then. Do you consider yourself a confident person?
I do. We all have our ups and downs and days when we're more confident than other days. But generally, yes, generally, I would say, especially over, you know, the course of our journeys as we evolve and grow, and, you know, all on mindset and shifting limiting beliefs and things that stand in the way of you stepping into your vision. And, you know, by just going through those processes, it builds your confidence, it builds your self-esteem, your worth, your, you know, no longer doubting yourself when you know that you are capable, you are worthy, you can do this. And so along the journey, yeah, I would say I'm a lot more confident than I was years ago as we all evolve and grow.
Right, I can agree with that. Now, I know you speak a lot to past relationships. So how would you define relationship confidence?
Relationship conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing eye to eye, taking things personally, being triggered. And oftentimes we get triggered, especially in relationships, by childhood wounds, where it really is our inner children in conflict with one another.
Yeah, so in order to really be confident in our relationships, we have to be able to move past that childhood trauma. We have to be able to walk through it.
Yes, and embody our wholeness. So is that we're not operating from a place of a plus child or plus inner parent, but rather from a healthy adult archetype.
Right. And so what ways does the person need to be in order to exude confidence in their current relationships?
That is so multi-layered. Like there's so much healing that needs to take place in, you know, your perceptions and your outlook on life, and yeah, just how you interact with yourself, your self-talk. You know, are you able to see things and discuss things for what they are, or what does it bring up in you that then gets triggered, that you then take things personally as opposed to just seeing things for what they are?
So what I hear is that so people need to be aware, and we need to be able to move out of our story. So recognize our victim story and be able to move out of that and be able to have that positive self-talk. Yeah.
Make the shifts that need to be made. Sorry, this yeah, so actually just looking past the story. So not getting caught up in the story, but actually seeking the deeper truth. And, you know, that's why I love the work of family constellations, because it allows us to drop straight into our body, get out of our mind, and actually access what it is that we are feeling, our bodily sensations. And then in the process of being facilitated through a family constellation, there are healing sentences that you then say, which speak to the deeper truth. And we don't get stuck in the story of he said, she said, you know, the whole drama. But we stick to the truth. What is the truth here? You know, for instance, in an interaction between parents, oftentimes out of an act of love and kindness, we unconsciously take on the emotional and mental burdens of others. And this is especially true with children when they feel like there's an absent parent, either emotionally or physically, and then there's a tendency for the child who wants to belong to take on a parent role. And oftentimes they then grow up too quickly and they become too responsible too quickly. And in doing that, 9 times out of 10, they end up parenting the parents. And so in a constellation, just the simple acknowledgement of, you're the big one, I'm the little one, shifts so much just in that actual acknowledgement of who is the parent, who is the child. And, you know, thanking your parents for the gift of life. And even that is enough, you know, especially when the parent hasn't been emotionally or physically available and hasn't given much else to the child. Just the mere fact that life has been passed on to the child, that is enough. And just acknowledging that and the truth of that, with not getting stuck in the story, is so healing.
Yeah, and to hear you explain it like that, it sounds very powerful, because that is true. Sometimes as children, they take on the responsibilities, or maybe not exactly the responsibilities, but the feeling of needing to be responsible like a parent. And then they continue that with them. So yeah, just to recognize, no, I'm the little one, you're the big one. And then, like you said, to have love for their parents. So just, they gave you life. If they've given you nothing else, they've given you life. And that's something to be grateful for.
Exactly. And, oftentimes when we do help out of an act of love and we end up taking on the emotional or mental burdens of others, we also end up not being in our rightful place. And when we do that, we weaken ourselves, we weaken the other person, and we weaken the entire system. And then, so much happens within that, where there's entanglements and misguided loyalties, and there's so much that we can then get entangled in, that depending on the circumstances, if there is such a close bond between the parent and a child, where the child is not in its place as a child, but for instance has taken the place of the other parent and become like the confidant, where things are shared that shouldn't be shared, and there can become like a codependency there, that then affects that child's future relationships, because they're not free to have a proper relationship with their spouse, because there's still part of them that's entangled with the parents.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. So what has helped you to exude confidence? What has helped you to from some of those past experiences?
Well, sorry, and so appropriate, because I'm going to share that, my health journey, and now I'm coughing, and it's not related to all of this. But anyway, so my health journey really got me started on this path and exploring family constellations and systemic work, because especially in relationships, it started showing up in relationships where I was suppressing and repressing how I truly felt in relationships outside of my family of origin. And there was a time, I remember the incident like it was yesterday, where I felt like I was punished for speaking my truth. And in that, and things that followed from that, I started repressing and suppressing how I truly felt. And it ended up manifesting physically in my body. And I ended up with thyroid cancer.
Oh.
And through that process and complications that resulted from having the thyroid removed, and I was also overdosed on vitamin D, a couple of years after that. And there's been like one thing after the next, and it truly is a miracle that I'm alive. And, in that overdose of vitamin D, I went into renal failure, and I had heart palpitations. And at the time, my oldest son was 1. And, I spent time in ICU, and, it really is a miracle that I'm alive. And through that time, I just reflected on, why am I still here? What is it that I get to share with the world? And in that, there was confidence in that. It's because I'm still here for a greater reason, a greater purpose. And that gave me the confidence to then share my story and step into my authenticity. And now I guide my clients through doing the same. And, throughout the journey, because I had that health scare where I went into kidney renal failure, and the amount of calcium I take. I also, over the years, I landed up with kidney stones too. And so, long story short, when I see my endocrinologist every 6 months to monitor my levels, part of my routine checks are also going for routine CT scans to check for kidney stones. And a couple of years ago, when we were checking for kidney stones, they actually found that I had a malignant cyst on my right kidney. And yeah, when I got that news, I mean, it really set me back, because by then, I mean, I then had a second sonnery, and, you know, I've got 2 young boys, and it was like, how can this be? What now, you know? And, you know, my mom and I have both had thyroid and kidney cancer. And there's no other history in the family. And then this got me looking at epigenetics. And I now incorporate the concept of epigenetics in my work and the insights of epigenetics. So I don't know if you're familiar with what epigenetics is.
I'm not. What exactly is that?
Okay, so sorry, epigenetics is, so if you imagine your grandmother, when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, and your mother was a fetus of 5 months, you were already an egg inside of your mother. And you already had consciousness. So everything your gran was experiencing, your mom and you and your siblings were all experiencing the emotional response to what your gran was experiencing. And that adds like an emotional tag to your DNA and the way you respond to things. And then that's what gets passed down from generation to generation, where things in the past, so responses to certain events in the past, served previous generations that may or may not serve us anymore. You know, if you just think back to the war, for instance, and, you know, bomb raids and being on high alert, and those responses, which served previous generations, but that same response, it doesn't serve us in today's day and age.
Right.
Then we end up with things like the anxieties and, you know.
Yeah, so when you said that, it made me think about that, because I'd read years ago about, you know, how a grandmother's anxiety or fear, the grandchild can have that. And I was just like, really? But when you explain it the way you did, it makes sense now. I can really see how that plays out. So yeah, so and you've been through a lot. You have been through a lot, and I am so glad you are still fighting and still here. Okay.
And so just to end that story, a couple of months before I found out that I had the malignant cyst, because I had no symptoms. It was only discovered through the routine CT scan. And so I consider that a blessing in disguise. And so, sorry, a couple of months before finding out that I had that malignant cyst, I was feeling stuck in my business, and I felt the need to book another family constellation. And little did I know that the family constellation would be 2 days before the surgery. And when I did the family constellation, the facilitator wanted to constellate the kidney. And I said, no, that's not why I booked the constellation. I booked the constellation because I was feeling stuck in my business, and there was an element of confidence, like what is it that I do? Why am I feeling stuck? Which path should I follow? Like not having that clarity. It was that lack of clarity and confidence, and I was just feeling all of that. Mm-hmm. And so we constellated my current self and my future self. And before we knew it, we were constellating my mom's side of the family again. And the kidney ended up coming up. And I was carrying burdens that weren't mine to carry.
Wow.
And so I lovingly handed them back to my mom, through my mom, to where they belong, to their time and place. And then, because I was going for the surgery, I then added like an additional ritual to that, where, the actual act of literally now handing it back, with it being cut out. And, my mom came with me to the hospital, and she was with my husband. So my mom and my husband were walking alongside me when they were wheeling me into theatre. And as they were doing that, I then just deepened the whole practice. And, when I was looking at my mom, it was like just physically handing back what was going to be removed and taking it to another level. And anyway, long story, but it really does showcase how it is that I get to help my clients without it physically manifesting in them, and noticing the early signs, and how it is that it's showing up in their business or their relationships, or however it's showing up for them and or in their health. And then just guiding them through handing back what's not theirs, so that they can be authentically themselves and embody their wholeness, their confidence, their true essence, so that they can live their life forward fully and completely, living their legacy and not living the legacy or destinies of previous ancestors.
So just releasing some of those burdens that we unknowingly carry that can affect our confidence and weigh us down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would be 3 things then that you would share with someone to help them move past the trauma from the past relationships?
What are 3 things that I would?
Yeah. If someone is really struggling with confidence in their past relationships, what will be maybe 3 things that you think, okay, maybe you should start with this or focus on this?
Oh, well, we would look at the family dynamics. We would look at, what has been imprinted, what are the imprinted patterns. We'd look at placement and belonging. So where do they see that they fit within their family system? What feels like they, like what feels like it's missing, or what feels out of place, or what feels excluded. And then that all gives us clues. And then we also look at, belief systems that are ingrained. So vows and beliefs, things that you hear yourself say that make no sense to you. You're like, but not to your lived experience. And maybe something that you've unconsciously heard, or just always believed to be your truth. So that's where I would start, just by getting a sense of what it is that you may be carrying that's not yours. And another key thing that I would invite people to do is to actually connect with their lineage. And so, you know, I know you did offer us an opportunity to share a free gift, and the free gift would be one of the 3 things that somebody could do. Is it's an 8-minute guided process where you'll follow your breath as you include each of your ancestors behind you, and just noticing in your body the response that you have, whether it feels like it flows or it feels constricted or blocked in any sense, and then just noticing the difference. That'll give you a lot of clues of where things aren't flowing in your family system, and which lineage to look at first, and where the healing awaits for you within that.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. I really appreciate you sharing all the knowledge that you have shared. Any final thoughts before we close out?
Just trust your inner knowing. And, you know, for me, confidence is also about that inner knowing. And we can only access that inner knowing when we feel aligned to who it is that we truly are, and feel like we've come home to ourselves and are embodying our wholeness. And then from that place, we can then trust our inner knowing. And yeah, and that's what this work is all about. And you know, I get so excited about even just sharing this work, because I know how powerful it is, and it really is subtle, profound shifts, one step or even half a step at a time, which allows us to then step into new possibilities and new ways of being, where we can access that inner confidence, the strength and loving support from our family systems. And then from that place where we're feeling lighter and reconnected with ourselves, we can then trust our inner knowing and live our lives forward fully and completely, confidently, knowing that this is our path, we're following our destiny and living our legacy.
Yeah, well said. You have the last word. I am always in gratitude. You are welcome. I am always in gratitude and appreciation when people give of themselves and their time. So thank you again for being here.
And thank you so much. I've enjoyed connecting and sharing this work, and, you know, really on a mission, because this really is a movement of allowing everybody to come back home to themselves and feel that inner love and confidence, inner knowing, and all of that flowing through their family systems from one generation to the next.
Yes, indeed. Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.